What really happened on that fog-covered mountain trail? Why did search dogs refuse to go near the campsite? And who or what left behind a 17-inch footprint beside the blood-soaked tent? In the remote wilderness of the Pacific Northwest, a disturbing encounter was buried in silence. No news coverage, no police answers, just fragments. Radio chatter, torn gear, and an unexplained scream caught on tape. What happened that night in the woods? And why does no one talk about it anymore? They came for burgers. They left with footprints.
Today is going to be a little bit different though, because we are going to try something again. We are in El Reno, Oklahoma. We're going to meet up with the guys and we're going Bigfoot hunting again.
In the quiet stretch of El Reno, Oklahoma, Natalie and Tara were back. This wasn't their first Bigfoot hunt, but it was the strangest. Earlier in the day, laughter and burgers filled the air.
We just had onion burgers with the boys. Kurt and Evans are guides from last time, and now we are heading to the Darlington State Game Reserve.
But by the time they reached Darlington State Game Reserve, the mood shifted. Locals say this place is different, haunted, watched, and the sightings, too many to ignore. They parked near the tree line. The river nearby ran fast, loud enough to mask footsteps, heavy ones. They weren't 10 minutes in before they found something. Mud, deep, still wet. But the impression? Not a shoe, not quite. A wide sunken footprint. 5 toes, no tread, no boot. The mud was pushed down deep, like something heavy had stepped there. Really heavy. They crouched over the track. One pointed out the depth, the shape, the lack of a heel mark. Another followed the line of prints forward, straight toward the riverbank. Then came the second one. Watch this part right here.
Like a toe.
The other angle, it looks definitely like a shoe.
Yeah, right there. Yeah. This does have like a human foot.
What is that?
But watch your feet. Wait, what's up? Right here are the tracks. Yeah. It looks like a shoe, but it's not.
Big toe.
Uh-huh.
Here's their little toes, toenails. That's a deep, deep print too.
Yeah.
Something heavy, but
That print? Toes, not rubber, and not alone. Another print appeared, smaller, closer to the trees, then more, as if something had crossed through the area, and something else followed. They were barefoot, and it didn't stop there. A sound cracked from the woods. Coyotes, lots of them, but one howl stood out, lower, slower, not a dog, not a coyote. Listen here.
Yeah.
The way that he's laying it.
He would not.
Knox?
He would not.
Okay. He said he would not.
What was all that hooping and hollering?
Well, that was there was some coyotes, but there, did you recall seeing or hearing the one that was lower and
Yeah.
That sound at the end? That wasn't a coyote. No way. Silence fell. No birds, no crickets. Just that pressure you feel when something knows you're there. Cameras were rolling, but the lens couldn't capture the weight of the moment. One of them stepped next to the footprint. Her foot barely made a dent in the same mud. The print beside hers had sunk inches deep. That wasn't just size. That was weight. Watch depth of footprint for yourself.
Yeah, that's about what I weigh.
it's 12 inches in length, counting that big toe there to heel.
Okay.
And then about 5 inches wide at the widest. Now what's interesting is this raised part in the middle, what Dr. Meldrum calls the mid-tarsal flexion. They have a hinge in their foot in the middle. So
Then something fell. A splash behind them. Something hit the water. Hard. They turned. Nothing there. Nothing visible, at least. Jump to this.
That was something falling into the water.
Definitely.
We got something thrown into the water. Something big.
That was something big.
Rolling. Something just was thrown or fell or jumped into the water. Should I not go this way? Hello?
Something moved behind them. The splash? Real. And sudden. Could have been a beaver. Could have been the bank collapsing. But none of them saw it fall. They heard it. They felt it. Like something was testing them, watching. They scanned the banks. More prints, one with 4 toes. Another with what looked like mid-tarsal flexion. A strange raised part in the middle, like Dr. Jeff Meldrum once described. Something built to push off. Built to move silently but fast. No shoes, no sign of recent hikers, just the forest, and tracks that led nowhere. Then came the quiet. No wind, no crickets, not even a mosquito, just stillness, thick and unnatural. They headed to the bridge where last year they'd heard what they thought was a ghost cat. Now it was just them and the darkness. FLIR cameras ready, rain building. But it was too quiet. No critters, no rustling, nothing.
This is the very spot. You can't even see my feet now. This is the very spot where the armadillo tried to scare me. Tara's playing with the FLIR. We're at, what minute?
They wait. But the woods? Completely still. A storm was coming. Lightning cracked through the sky. And just like that, the night ended. Thunder chased them back indoors. But those tracks? That sound? That weight in the air? That stayed. They're not sure what they saw. Not exactly. But one thing was clear. Something had been there. Heavy, barefoot, and aware they were watching. So what do you think? Just animal prints? Or something much, much stranger? Let us know in the comments below. And if you've ever found a print you couldn't explain, drop your story. You're not alone. 17 years old, camping deep in Florida's Ocala National Forest. That night, James thought he'd just be making memories with his friends. Instead, he pulled the trigger on something he still can't explain. This footage comes from Eric K. Swanson's channel, and it's one of the most unsettling Bigfoot encounters ever shared. They were sitting by the fire, swapping stories, when James noticed it, a figure. Just beyond the firelight, large, unmoving, watching. At first he couldn't make it out. Then it moved slowly, deliberately circling the camp. Not once, twice.
I seen somebody or something. I couldn't make out really what it was, just outside of firelight. And then it started circling our camp. I kept seeing it in different places as it went around us. And it went around probably 2 times. And then it stopped by this one tree.
It wasn't making noise. It wasn't stumbling. It was intentional, calculated, like it was sizing them up. Then it stopped by a tree and stood there. James said the thing was at least 7 feet tall, broad, muscular, not a bear, not a man, just huge. He felt the shift, that deep fear, the kind that tells you something's wrong and too close. He stood up, shotgun in hand, told it to stop. He wasn't bluffing. Then it stepped forward. Watch yourself, that stare down. It's not just fear, it's instinct kicking in.
It was big. I say he was at least 7 foot tall, and he was probably that wide. I mean, he was big. When I seen him, that's the one thing that bothered me the most. You know, like I say, if you're not the alpha male out there, you're dinner. And I was afraid that I'd be dinner if that guy come in here after me, because he was big enough that he could whoop.
The next second, James fired. A magnum slug hit the creature in the gut. It folded over, dropped, then rolled behind the tree. Everything went silent. James and his friends circled up, back to back, weapons out. They didn't run. They waited for hours. They were terrified the thing was still out there, bleeding or hunting them. One of his friends broke down completely. James calmed him, but the tension was crushing. Watch that shift.
I told my friends, I told my buddies, I said, We're going to have to sit down here with our backs to each other with our guns pointed out. In case he decides to come in, at least one of us can probably take another shot. Well, my one guy there, he pissed all over himself. I mean, he really let loose. And I calmed him down, and I calmed the other guy down, and we sat there waiting for safe light.
The moment everything goes from panic to survival mode. At first light, they bolted. Straight to the car. Straight to a game warden. They told him everything. The creature. The shot. The tree. He agreed to go back with them. And that's where it gets strange. There were no prints. No blood. Nothing broken. Nothing disturbed. Like it vanished. Watch closely, James retracing his steps. It's all there except the evidence. The game warden looked them dead in the eye and said, "You didn't see anything, you don't know anything." And that was it. He drove them back and told them to forget it. But James never did. Years later, after hearing more accounts and watching other encounters online, he became convinced the creature that night was a Bigfoot. The size, the silence, the way it moved without sound, the feeling of being watched before it ever appeared. He started paying attention to the stories, the consistent details, the behaviors, and he realized he wasn't the only one. Since then, James says he's seen more of them. Quiet sightings, quick movements, always at the edge of where people stop looking. They're curious, he says. They're smart, and they know how to avoid being found. Watch that final beat. The regret is real, not just from the shot, but from the silence that followed. Because what James felt most after the fear was guilt. He didn't know what it was. He acted on instinct, and then, like smoke, it disappeared. So what do you think? Did James really shoot a Bigfoot? And if he did, how did it vanish without a single trace? Why was the game warden so quick to shut it down? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And for more unfiltered encounters and chilling stories like this, check out our channel. We're bringing these stories forward, one witness at a time. Two campers, one remote forest, and something they'll never forget. They weren't hunting, they weren't even looking, just sitting around a campfire in Florida, sharing stories after a day of trail walking. Then, shuffling, just outside their tent. They brushed it off at first, maybe a raccoon, maybe wind. But then the tent shook. Not a breeze, not a brush, a full-body shove. Something big was pushing in, and it didn't stop. The tent walls kept trembling, one side, then the other. The man inside froze. He didn't scream. He didn't move. For a minute and a half, he just sat there, while the fabric buckled around him. Then silence. Whatever it was, walked off into the night. Watch yourself.
And I walked up to the tent. I sat down, I zipped the tent, and I heard right away shuffling around my tent. And then the sides of the tent started to shake.
That moment, that's real fear. Not knowing what's just a few feet away. But the story doesn't end there. Earlier that same night, a witness saw something cross the trail nearby. Around 4 feet tall, hairy, and fast. It moved like it was gliding. No noise. Just gone. And then, crashing through the brush. Whatever it was didn't leave much behind. But others that week had heard knocks. 5 in 5 minutes. No echo. Just clean, intentional hits. The group wasn't quiet that night. In fact, they were loud. Glow sticks, singing, laughter. They were trying to be human. And maybe that's what brought it in. Because that's when the sightings picked up. The Animal Planet team came to investigate. Not just the camper's story, but a wave of local sightings, all within a 5-mile radius. At least 7 confirmed reports, all recent, all aggressive. They hiked out to where it happened. Disturbed dirt, a fresh heel print, then toes, wide foot, roughly 13 to 14 inches long. No claw marks, no drag, just a clean, planted step. A bear? Possibly, but this looked more deliberate, like something heavy had gripped the ground before launching forward. Watch yourself the moment they show the footprint. It's deep, wide, and too human to dismiss.
And we were singing and having fun, just doing a night hike.
Coincidentally, I was with another group that was within ear's distance of them. After about a half an hour that we'd been out there, we had 5 knocks inside of 5 minutes. We were actively looking for tracks. We come around a bend in the road, and we could clearly see a disturbance in the roadway up in front of us. We walked up, and you could see a heel. You could see definitely a big toe. You could see how when it had landed, it had grabbed the ground and kicked back.
The couple said it felt like a warning. Not an attack, but a message. Go home. They weren't wanted there, and the activity wasn't isolated. That same week, hikers nearby reported rocks being thrown from the woods. Low growls, eye shine, at chest level. In 2 separate locations, groups claimed to hear the exact same dragging stick noise from opposite ends of the trail. The team split up. 2 camps, 2 different routes. One team walked ahead, while the other stayed still. It's called the inchworm. One group moves, the other listens, and something was listening too. Just off trail, strange sounds started. Wood knocking, then what sounded like stick-on-stick scraping. Then a howl. Not coyote, not owl. Deeper, throatier. It echoed, paused, then was answered. Watch closely, you'll hear the second sound. It's not natural, not familiar.
In that direction?
To my right.
It sounded like sticks dragging across. Shh, listen. Listen. Shh. Hold on. Did you hear that, Matt? I'm hearing something high pitch. Yeah, is that a coyote though?
As they regrouped, the atmosphere shifted. Everyone felt it, stillness, pressure, like being watched. The second team said they heard something trying to mimic their coyote calls. Same pattern, same rhythm, but off, too slow, too low. Not a perfect copy, but close enough to notice. And that's the detail that stuck. Who or what was listening close enough to try and imitate them? By the end of the night, no one had visual proof, but something was there. No question. Disturbed ground, multiple knocks, mimicked calls, and a tent that shook with force from something no one ever saw. So now it's your turn. Could this have been a misidentified animal? Or are we looking at real signs of Sasquatch behavior? Watch again. That sound in the background. Barely audible, but strange. Could it be?
The sort of area where a Bigfoot would feel very comfortable because there's a zillion places where it can be out of view very quickly. So we're going to continue to inchworm our way back to the other team. Maybe they had better luck.
This right now is the most noise we heard all night.
Ah, really? Yeah. We did hear some coyotes and we heard some strange things, although the strangest thing I didn't hear myself.
Yeah, it sounded like somebody was trying to imitate Matt's coyote. It was definitely odd.
Let us know what you think in the comments. And if you've ever had a moment in the woods that made your skin crawl, share it. You're not alone. This footprint right here, some say it belongs to Bigfoot himself. Not a joke. A scientist claims he's found hundreds of them. We're diving into this mystery with footage from the channel Groovy Gavin, a team that doesn't just talk about Sasquatch, they go out and track it. So let's see what they found. First stop, a museum run by a man who's practically the Indiana Jones of Sasquatch hunting. What he finds, he brings back here. The casts on the wall? Supposedly the best hard evidence Bigfoot believers have. And he says this: if it's a hoax, then whoever made these tracks isn't just faking it. They're biomechanical geniuses. Play this part yourself.
How's it going? Good to see you again, man. I feel like I haven't learned a ton about the castings.
This is some of the best
hard evidence. They say there is no hard evidence for Sasquatch. Footprints are really interesting because you can give it to 10 people and they don't need to know the context of it. So the people who say that Sasquatch is that's all nonsense, it's all hoax, it's all...
The casts, the weight, the detail. That's what they're betting on. Next, they went out to the very spots where footprints had been found just days before. Cliff Barackman from Finding Bigfoot pointed us to 2 places: broken trees, odd markings, and strange impressions. They hiked up with plaster in hand, ready to cast anything real. The area was dense, quiet. Every tree felt like a clue. But after hours of searching, nothing. Just broken branches. No clear tracks, no undeniable signs. They camped for the night anyway. Set up trail cams, 3 Nutella traps. Yes, Nutella. Apparently Bigfoot can't resist it. See this setup. Catch it yourself.
Oh my God. I mean, all right, as you see here, we got the 3 trail cams. They record only when motion is detected. They start recording, and their night vision, so they can see anything. And under that, we got 3 Nutellas. Bigfoot dipped his fingers in here. Nutella cast? Let's just put it like right here. So we set up our 3 camera traps. That's trap number 1 set.
The camera traps, the bait, the quiet anticipation. At 3 a.m. the rain hit. Flashlights died. Something cracked in the woods. A light in the distance. A sound, maybe footsteps. They followed it, hoping, searching. Then silence. The trail went cold, again. Morning came. They pulled the cameras, 20 clips recorded. But after reviewing every one of them, nothing. Here's the truth. This wasn't just a goofy adventure, it was real research. They talked to experts, saw the science, questioned the stories. The sounds in the forest? Creepy, but easy to fake. The videos? Wild, but not conclusive. The stories? Convincing, but stories. The only thing that stuck was the footprints. They've been found everywhere, by so many different people, spanning decades. Some were massive. Some showed strange toe structure. A few looked impossibly detailed, down to skin folds. But here's where it gets weird. The castings look real, anatomical, deep, varied. But the photos? Many looked flat, as if stamped, like a wooden block. It didn't add up. Still, thousands of these have been recorded. And you have to ask yourself, could all of it be fake? For this long? With that much anatomical precision? Watch the final reflection.
But the extreme skeptic side of me would say this. The castings looked very real, but I didn't really see any pictures of footprints that looked much like the castings. A lot of them looked flat on the bottom. It did look like a foot stamp, but that doesn't mean they're not fake. I might have just not seen the right pictures. And even the stories and everything, I don't think that's enough to say that this is 100% fake, but I don't think it's enough to say it's 100% real. We finally watched the footage from last night.
That's where it hits. The mix of belief, doubt, and obsession. Because here's the thing. Even if we found nothing, even if the cameras were blank, even if no one screamed in the dark, we looked. And now I get it. Why people believe, why they keep searching. It's not just about proof, it's about possibility. Bigfoot might not have shown up that night, but the footprints? They're still out there, still unexplained. So here's the question. What would you believe if you saw one up close? What would it take for you to say, yeah, that's real? Drop your thoughts below. Seen something strange in the woods? Share it. And hey, subscribe. New encounters hunt every single week. Something was out there. No birds, no wind. Just that low, crawling tension in the trees. Then, a light in the tunnel. A step too far, and Russell nearly falls to his death. Whatever's moving through this forest isn't running, it's waiting. This chilling footage comes from the Travel Channel's Expedition Bigfoot, in an episode titled Russell tracks large creature through dense forest. Filmed in the remote wilderness, it follows expert tracker Russell as he investigates signs of a large, unseen creature. What begins in an abandoned train tunnel quickly turns into a dangerous pursuit deep into the wild. And what they find out there never shows up on thermal. But it's real. The tunnel was silent. Russell stepped into the darkness, flashlight cutting through dust and decay. Then, light. A faint, unnatural glow deep inside. He moved closer. The tunnel opened into a drop so sudden he nearly went over. Inches from death. One bad step and it was over. Watch yourself. That edge?
Look how that's just broken off and hanging there. Something's behind us, Russell. I can hear that. What the is that? You hear that?
It wasn't marked, and something had clearly broken off and fallen. Something big, something recent. Outside the tunnel, the forest was still, too still. The team paused. A sound cracked through the silence. Not wind, not birds. Something else. Moving, low, intentional. Russell whispered for quiet. The air thickened, every breath louder than it should have been. The thermal was blank. Nothing, but the sound was close. Whatever it was, wasn't giving off heat, or it was hiding just right. Then, movement. A snapped branch. Not on camera, but the trail was obvious. Something pushed through the brush ahead, fast and heavy. Russell pushed forward. The path narrowed, trees closed in tight, branches grabbing at his jacket. The woods were disorienting, walls of green, no sky above, just a tunnel of foliage. Every step felt off, like being lured in. Then he saw it, flattened brush. One footprint half sunk into the soil. Large, round, deep, not human. He was on the trail, but it had gone quiet again, too quiet. The thing was putting distance between them, fast, and the brush made following almost impossible. The trail finally broke into a clearing. Watch yourself.
You see that clearing? That gives me that distance to watch, to where if anything crosses it without any kind of heat trace or thermal, I'll easily be able to see it. I know that this hillside will eventually peak out. Once I get to the top of it, I should have a superior vantage point from here. If I can see this thing in a clearing, maybe I can get the whole shape and see exactly what I'm following. So I need to get to the top.
That moment, critical. The open space meant visibility. If anything crossed without a heat trace, it'd show up. It had to. Russell kept climbing. The hill ahead would give him a view. From the top, he'd be able to see everything. The layout, the escape routes, maybe even the creature. Every time they hit a clearing before, something strange had followed. This felt the same. Then, heat, on the ridge. Something hot moved fast. Too fast to get a clear look, but enough to know it wasn't small. It was big, and it was watching, not fleeing. Russell didn't turn back. He angled toward it, slowly, carefully, step by step. The team said nothing, but you could feel the tension, like walking into a trap. The air felt heavier, charged. Watch yourself.
Zach, I'm seeing something on this hillside that's pretty hot. I can't walk away from it without knowing what that is. I'm gonna work my way over there. I feel like we're walking into an ambush. This is the weirdest thing.
That heat signature? It lingered. It wasn't running. It was waiting. And as they moved closer, that feeling hit again, like they weren't the ones tracking anymore. They were being tracked. Something was here. Heavy, quiet, smart. Fresh snow, untouched by boots or hooves. And right in the center of it, a 19-inch footprint. Not a boot, not a bear, not an elk. Whatever made that track came out of the place the Rocky Mountain Sasquatch team calls the Land of the Giants. This footage is from their YouTube channel titled 19-inch Bigfoot Tracks in Snow at Land of Giants.
But so far, this is the best one that we found out of the ones in the snow of the 19-incher. But I mean, that's just massive. I'll put my foot next to it to give you guys some type of a perspective on it.
In it, Derek, Jamie, and the team are investigating a remote section of wild terrain where strange activity is no stranger. Right from the start, the scene feels off. Still, too still. They're not far from a section they call the elk bedding zone.
That way is Bigfoot Highway, and we actually call this the elk bedding area because right back over there, we always find elk scat in places that elk bed down.
A place where large game sleep and rest. That alone makes it prime territory for predators. But what they find just steps into the canyon makes the hair on your neck stand up. They spot it almost instantly. A print, giant, wide, sunken deep into the snow. You don't miss something like that. Not when it dwarfs your own boot by several inches. Watch this moment.
And check this out. A 19-inch footprint in the snow, and he come right up this embankment from out of the Land of the Giants, and you can also see where he may have went back in. I mean, Derek just filmed this a little while ago. He leapt across the river right there, and where my shadow is, just to the right of my shadow.
You can see where the creature came up the embankment, rising out of the timberline as if it was nothing. It didn't struggle, didn't slide, just moved, one clean step after another. The team measures it next to a human boot. Their boot is around 13 inches long. The creature's print? At least 19 inches, with a spread of 8 to 8.5 inches across. The size alone is startling. But it's not just about scale. The depth of the imprint, the structure, the stride. All of it points to something moving with weight and purpose.
My size 10 and my shoe in the boot, I'm like 12 to 13 inches in length, and I've got like a 4.5 inch.
It wasn't wandering, it had a direction. And then they noticed something else. A trackway. There are more prints leading up the slope, heading back into the deeper woods. Snow has melted some of them down, but you can still make out the spacing. Still see the path it carved as it moved uphill. It's as if the forest let it pass, then sealed itself behind it. The crew barely made it 50 yards into the canyon when they found this. It didn't take hours of searching. The land gave this to them almost immediately. And not just one set. Deeper in, they spot another, 14-inch tracks, likely from a different individual. These get cast, preserved, a moment locked in plaster.
It looks like it's probably well over a week old, but I'm going to measure in the widest spot. It looks like the widest spot's about 8 inches, maybe 8.5 inches wide. But, you know, this is melted out some and isn't the best, but it's what we found. And we can only measure and collect the data that we find, and this is what we found today. You can see another step there that it took.
The camera lingers on the second massive print. This one's aged, at least a week old. Melted at the edges, but still clean enough to show the structure. It sits just on the edge of the elk bedding zone. And that's important, because this isn't random. Whatever left those prints may have been hunting, lurking in silence, watching elk bed down, waiting for the right moment.
But yeah, this place just doesn't disappoint. We only got 50 yards into this side canyon.
Predators don't waste energy. They move with intent. And that's what makes this trackway so unnerving. Nearby, they point to a double snap-off, a broken branch that's been examined in past investigations. It's high up, split in a way that suggests force, not age, not decay. You don't just walk through this forest and break thick branches 5 or 6 feet off the ground. It all lines up.
That's an old snap-off. I'm not going to go over and film it for you guys. If you guys want to go back and look at some of our older videos, we've gone over that snap-off with you. It's actually a double snap-off. But anyway, one more look at the footprint.
Right as they pan back over the print, look at the placement, the direction. It's not random. It's stepping out from exactly where the terrain shifts from wild to strategic, where elk sleep and the hills provide perfect cover. They call it the land of the giants for a reason.
If we find any other footprints or whatever, we'll let you guys know. There's a snap-off right there. The branch that the snap-off's at, Jenny's got her backpack hanging up at, but
This spot always delivers. Prints, casts, breaks, patterns that don't belong to human traffic. And every time they return, the land seems to give up just enough to keep them searching. Could someone fake this? Maybe. But let's ask the real question. Who would hike miles into the backcountry, stomp around with perfect stride length in freezing snow, and create trackways that line up with terrain, movement, and hunting zones? So what left these prints? Something real, something big, something that doesn't want to be seen, but keeps leaving behind evidence. Have you ever seen tracks that size in untouched snow? Or signs this calculated in the wilderness? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Is this a glimpse into the unknown? Or just nature keeping its biggest secret one step ahead? It started with a feeling. That low, pressing silence that shouldn't exist in the woods. No wind, no bugs, just stillness. The kind that crawls under your skin before anything even happens. The host sets out with nothing but a flashlight, camera, and his dog, Key. They've been here before, but this time something feels different. Off. The deeper they go, the stranger it gets. The dog starts acting cautious. Not scared, but alert. Ears forward, nose twitching. She knows something's ahead before the camera picks it up. Then comes the first sound. Not an animal, not the wind. It's that subtle clicking noise, like bone or claw or something unnatural moving through brush. Watch this moment.
Last time Chelsea and I were here, we heard this weird clicking. And not gonna lie, it was sketch. Sounded like...
As he scans the woods, the camera captures what looks like symmetrical objects lined up in the dirt. Stones, maybe. 8 of them. Perfectly spaced. Too perfect. Not random. And just as they notice it, a sharp thud. Something lands right behind him. Thrown, not dropped. The dog whips around. She heard it too. He presses on. Quiet zone up ahead.
Like those movies where those aliens are like walking and their like bones are clicking or their teeth are clicking while they're moving. Something like that.
No night insects, no forest hum, just a dead silence. As if the woods themselves are holding their breath. That's when they stumble onto a path that wasn't there before. A trail cutting through thick brush. It leads deeper, too clean, too intentional. They follow it, but the energy shifts again. Down one part of the trail, it feels like cryptid territory. Heavy, wild. Around the next bend, haunted, like something else entirely watches from the shadows. The dog hesitates. Her instincts sharpen. She stays close, scanning the tree line. That's when the smell hits. Strong, earthy, musky, like a wet animal, but not her. She's dry. The scent doesn't belong.
Okay, now it smells like animal. Like sweaty animal. Like kind of like hello?
She starts acting nervous. Not playful, not curious. She's looking past him, deep into the dark. Whatever it is, it moved. And she saw it too. He tries to brush it off, but she won't relax. She starts to backtrack. That's the moment you realize. The animal's had enough. She wants out. Then a snap. Loud. Close. A branch, thick and dry, cracks behind them. Something is following. He hears it. She bolts. They run. Through brush. Down the trail. Back toward camp. But he's not alone. Lights ahead flicker. Movement near the tent. For a second, he thinks he sees someone standing near their gear, but no one's supposed to be here. As they regroup, trying to calm down, it happens again. Another sound. Thrown. But this one isn't subtle. It's loud, deliberate. Not a fall, a toss, and it lands right next to him.
Sorry, Key. I'm sorry, baby. I'm sorry, baby. Oh my God, that just got thrown, man. Holy f***, that came out of nowhere.
He flinches, drops the camera for a second. The dog spins around. She's locked in on something. She sees it. Her body is rigid, not from fear, but protection. She's not barking. She's scanning. Something's in those trees. No mistaking it now. Something is back there. Something that's been tracking them for a while, waiting for the right moment to make itself known. But it's not charging, it's warning. They pack up fast. This isn't about finishing the video anymore, it's about getting out. One last glance at the tree line, and the dog gives a final look back. She saw it again. We didn't, but she did.
Oh my freaking man. I packed everything up. And we're gonna get the f out of here.
She stares deep into the woods. Tail low, body tense. It's still there, watching, following, but never fully seen. This wasn't a ghost hunt. It wasn't a spirit encounter. Whatever was out there moved with muscle, with weight, with intent. Something physical followed them through that forest. Something territorial.
As if, right when you were just listening.
It didn't want them dead. It just wanted them gone. And it got what it wanted. He left that night convinced it wasn't just haunted. It was hunted. Have you ever felt that shift in the woods? Like the silence is aimed at you? Drop your thoughts in the comments. What do you think was following him? Was it Bigfoot? Or something worse hiding in the silence? If you're not subscribed yet, do it now. Because what's out there isn't waiting. It's watching. Stage pond, pitch black, thick woods, and not another soul for miles. That's where it starts. Not with a roar or scream, but silence. Too much silence. The animals go quiet. The air heavy. Then, movement. Fast, out of frame. The kind that makes your gut twist. He's out there alone, trying to make contact. Tree knocks first. No reply. Then a call, loud, echoing across the darkness. Seconds pass, then it happens. A knock, another, and just like that, it's game on.
Ghost hunting stuff that I normally do, so I'm not going to be pulling out any devices or anything. It's just strictly see if we can collect any evidence of a skunk ape living out here.
That knock? Not him. Something shifts behind him. Close. A branch falls. No, not falls. It's thrown. There's no wind. Not enough to move limbs like that. But he sees it swing. Back and forth. No touch. No trigger. Just motion. He pushes deeper in.
Because we've had quite a few things that have happened that suggest that there might be some. So we'll see what happens.
The trees creak. Mushrooms scatter the floor. A buffet, maybe, for something that doesn't want to be seen. Then, louder, a snap. Not small, heavy, like a dead tree being shoved over. He pans toward the sound, but nothing's visible. The camera shakes slightly. Not from fear, from awareness. Something is back there, watching, moving. Later, a second tree knock hits. Then a third. Not random, not wind. It's like they're answering him, or warning him. But why keep replying if they want him to leave?
Something just got thrown.
It comes from both sides. He talks about the land, the massive Withlacoochee State Forest. Over 110,000 acres of thick wilderness and marsh, plenty of space to hide. Plenty of reasons not to be found. And suddenly it starts again, louder this time. Something falls, Not near him, but not far either. The branches shift. A shape darts just outside the flashlight's edge. Then, nothing. Dead still. Even his breath seems louder than it should be. He catches something moving on camera. It's subtle, but it swings unnaturally, the kind of motion you don't see unless you're really looking. And just as quickly as it started, it dies down. No knocks, no steps, just the cold creeping in. He tries again. A final call. No answer. He's been out here for hours, and whatever was toying with him, it's gone. Or hiding. Maybe just watching again. Rewatch this eerie swing. No wind. No reason. But it moves.
And I didn't touch that. And it runs back that way, so I didn't step on anything, and that is definitely swaying back and forth.
Back at the car, the adrenaline's fading. But the questions don't. Why did the activity spike only after those calls? What was throwing things again and again without ever showing itself? Most of all, who else or what else knocks back from the dark? Final watch.
There's another one. As I'm getting back closer to this stupid area over here.
The sound is deliberate. Listen close. Stage Pond gave just enough to keep the mystery alive. Enough knocks, throws, and chilling silences to make you wonder, what's out there when the cameras go off?
I mean, those noises are with intent, too. That's not like...
If you made it this far, tell us. Do you think it was a skunk ape? Or something else stalking those woods? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Smash that like if you felt the tension. And hit subscribe. More real encounters coming soon. Have you ever camped somewhere so quiet, so remote, that every sound feels magnified? In this video from the Hoggett Project, the camera takes us deep into the wilderness near Mount Rainier, where a peaceful solo camping trip quickly turns into something strange. It all starts with a view too good to ignore. Perched with a clear view of Mount Rainier's snow-capped peak, the camp is chosen more for its scenery than for its security. It's quiet, still, and seemingly untouched, until something in the woods starts knocking. Not once, not twice, but repeatedly. Not mechanical, not random, just knocking. At first, the only sign of something unusual is in the trees, a strange bundle of what looks like hair tangled in the bark. It's coarse, dark, and oddly placed, the kind of find that makes you pause. Watch yourself.
This is some kind of hair, it looks like, woven in with some tree bark. I don't know what that is.
Nearby, there's a bedded-down patch of forest floor. The shape is circular and wide enough for something large to have rested there. Not deer, not elk, no fur or hoof marks. Just the impression, and the sense that whatever had been there might still be close.
So, didn't even really take a look over here at this side. That's all bedded down, so it looks like some animals took some cover, especially right here. That's a nice little circular spot.
The setup continues. A tent is raised, a fire pit prepared. Light fades fast in the mountains. As night comes on, thermal and infrared gear are brought out. This isn't just camping, it's observation. The tech includes a black hot thermal setting, where anything giving off heat appears dark on screen. Hands glow black, trees stay pale. The forest reveals what the eye misses. Watch yourself.
It's on black hot, which means anything black being recorded is supposedly hot. And you can see there's my hand, so that's what you get.
At the edge of camp, movement. Brief. Just a flicker across the thermal viewfinder. It's enough to make the investigator stop. "I can see somebody down there," he says softly, uncertain. Not a person, not quite.
Oh, I can see somebody down there.
Later, wind sweeps across the site, but not from the usual direction. It comes from behind, which is strange for that slope. Fire starter gel sparks the flames to life. Leftover lasagna gets warmed up. He films casually, but you can sense he's on edge. It's a quiet night inside the tent, but just before dawn, something stirs outside. Footsteps. Faint, crunching dry leaves. The camera picks up subtle audio. He says it could be mice, but the weight of the steps suggests something bigger. Still, there's no full confirmation, just tension. Batteries keep dying fast. 4 already drained. 1 more and he's down to just a phone. Meanwhile, the squirrels are in chaos, chattering wildly in one direction. He tries moving closer, but whatever's in the woods seems to hear him too. Watch yourself.
Wow, freaky.
Breakfast the next morning is quiet. Chicken-flavored rice heats in a camp pot. The sun returns. He sits in it, finally able to relax. But the peace doesn't last long. Off to the side of camp, branches snap again. Not once. Several in succession. Then, 2 slow, deliberate footsteps. And just like the night before, the squirrels react. All eyes on the trees. Something is moving again. And it isn't just the wind. Watch yourself.
Yeah, I think what I'm gonna do is come over here. I'm just sit in the sun. Man, that feels nice.
As he breaks camp, you get the sense this trip was not what he expected. The inflatable tent deflates. The mountain looms in the background. But the real story happened in the woods. Out of sight, half heard, maybe unseen, but definitely there. So what was making the knocking sounds? What stirred the squirrels? Was it just wind and wildlife, or something more? Let us know what you think. Have you ever heard knocking in the woods?
I don't seen it.
Bro.
What the is that? Oh! What is that?
Have you ever stepped into a place where the silence feels watched? That's the feeling the team couldn't shake as they approached the entrance to the abandoned mine. It was remote, half collapsed in places, with rusted rails still leading into the dark. They'd visited this site before, recorded strange EMF readings and caught unusual sounds. But this night felt heavier, charged. Still. The first investigator entered with a flashlight in hand, confident but cautious. The beam cut a narrow path through the dust. About 20 feet in, without warning, the flashlight went dark. No flicker, no dimming, just sudden, complete failure. Watch yourself.
All right, Jen, whatever you are, I'm leaving your cave. Don't attack me on the way out, please. Oh my God. My flashlight just died. It won't turn on. It won't turn on. Guys! Ah! What the is that? Something just growled off. Oh, what the hell's in here? There's something actually in here. Oh my God. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Oh. Ah! What the is that?
He paused, thinking it was a loose connection. Pulled out his phone to use the LED. It lit. But only seconds later, a low growl echoed through the tunnel. Not an animal sound, something deeper, more deliberate. It was enough to freeze him in place. He whispered toward the entrance, but when he looked back, no one was there. A moment later, bats stirred overhead. One swooped toward his face, and he turned and bolted. As soon as he stepped out into open air, the flashlight blinked back on, bright and steady. No issues. He hadn't touched it. Back at the entrance, he told the others what happened. One of them, a skeptic, volunteered to go in himself. The others joked about locking the gate behind him. He laughed it off and stepped inside. Just minutes later, he came sprinting out of the shaft at full speed. So disoriented, he slammed into a nearby tree. See it for yourself.
Grab me the padlock. I don't think he'll last a whole 15 minutes.
I don't know. Oh, here he comes.
Whoa! Oh! Are you okay? Did you not see the tree? Did you hit the tree face first? What happened? Are you okay? Holy sh**.
He just got,
Oh, he's cut up.
I think that was a sack.
What the happened? You didn't see the tree?
When they got to him, he was trembling. He didn't speak right away, just pointed back into the mine. He said he'd heard something brushing against the tunnel wall. Then he felt it. Something moved past him. Not wind, not an animal, a presence. Only later did one team member share what the landowner had told him earlier. Years ago, a man had gone missing in that mine, never recovered. The records were sparse, just one old article mentioning a disappearance. The mine had been shut down soon after. Back at their temporary base, an RV parked near the property line, one of the investigators stayed behind to check gear. He said he'd go live from the site later, made a joke about doing a solo broadcast in the mine. But as he leaned over his gear, a sudden, deafening bang struck the side of the RV. The whole vehicle rocked.
Did you guys hear that?
What the was that?
Something just banged something, like, really loud.
Yeah, I felt that in the side of the RV, but I don't think it was the RV that got hit.
I don't know. It sounded like it hit metal. Like
God damn it, I was just falling asleep too.
He jumped up and looked outside. Nothing. No footsteps. No movement. He assumed it was a prank, radioed the rest of the team, but they were still at the house, reviewing footage. No one had been near the RV. Earlier in the evening, one member had described something strange when walking deep into the shaft. He said the ground felt soft, almost sponge-like. He stepped carefully, but something about the soil gave him a sinking sensation. Then he heard it, faint, almost out of range. A man's voice, not words, just a tone. Low, echoing. Another member said he felt drained after leaving the tunnel, like something had latched on. He couldn't explain it. It wasn't fear, it was exhaustion. Like his energy had been siphoned the moment he crossed the threshold. Listen closely.
Devour me at some point.
Yeah, because it did sound like an animal, like totally growling, right?
Not to mention the frickin' bats.
And I don't know about you guys. Did you hear any clicking sounds?
I heard a clicking.
I didn't. No.
I heard a clicking.
I heard a clicking.
You did?
Yeah, I heard a clicking.
What the
Okay, we all just heard that.
Yeah.
As they left the site, all of them reported hearing the same thing. Gravel crunching near the gate, soft clicks echoing off rock. Rhythmic, repetitive. Something pacing near the mouth of the shaft. Long after they'd closed the entrance and packed up their gear. The next morning, the drone operator noticed something strange on the property. Just beyond the mine, tucked into a small ravine, was a pool of water they hadn't seen before. Rust red, still, but the surface had a faint swirling motion, even without wind. They marked the location for a return visit.
All right, we just made it to the Orange Lake. This is pretty surreal. I've never seen anything like this before. The reason why we're even making an effort to explore things like this for this Bigfoot video is because places like this could potentially have prints. It is completely orange.
Whatever had been in that mine hadn't just stayed inside. It followed, it interacted, and it left a trail the team wasn't finished following. What do you think they encountered beneath that mountain? Was it something left behind or something still waiting? Let us know in the comments.